After the collapse of the Kingdom of Hyrule, only one royal family stood in the way of Calamity Ganon's complete conquest of the traditional monarchies of Hyrule. Still, the land of the Zora Kingdom is more than its incredible royal family, and in this video we will go deep into what could change in Lanayru.
But before we begin, make sure to like this video, which as always is edited by Donny DeVries, and subscribe and press that notification bell as it helps both you and us greatly. Anyway, it's time to get deep into the province of Lanayru inside Breath of the Wild 2.
We'll make our way to Zoras Domain. Divine Beast Ruta. Looks like it's stopped working. Let's investigate the situation. Mipha's father. I believe he would like to hear more about her. The least we can do is visit him and offer him some closure. Let's be off.
8 provinces. This time, Lanayru, the Kingdom of the Zora. Located in eastern Hyrule, this mountainous and filled with lakes and rivers land has been renowned for providing all of Hyrule with clean water since the distant past. The province neighbors central Hyrule to the west, Eldin and Akala to the north, Necluda to the south, and Lanayru Sea to the east. Despite being mostly inhabited north, south and east of Zoras Domain, there's a good reason for it, as Mount Lanayru beside Hebra Peak and Death Mountain is among the tallest and harshest mountains to scale in all of Hyrule. Fittingly enough, there's a reward at the top in the form of the Spring of Wisdom, and first time around, one of Breath of the Wild's unexpected highlights, freeing Naydra from the clutches of malice. Below Mount Lanayru, we also find the destroyed Lanayru Promenade, which might also be referenced in Breath of the Wild 2 due to its very old origin.
Until the Calamity 100 years ago, Lanayru's borderlands with central Hyrule were inhabited by both Hylians and Zoras. Today though, not counting one stable with Hylians, the Zoras are the only permanent residents of the province. But you never know, with the liberation of Hyrule by Link and Zelda, perhaps we will see Goponga Village and with it Hylian life rebuilt in Lanayru at some point in Breath of the Wild 2. For now at least, mostly due to the Blood Moon and monsters, there is little Zora activity here, or for that matter, along Zora River. The freshwater Zoras are at their prime in this element, and in particular at Zoras Domain, which has never been as impressive and breathtaking as in Breath of the Wild. This place was, is, and will be absolutely stunning unless Ganondorf breaks it, though that might be a big task to accomplish as all of Zora's Domain was constructed by using luminous stones, which we see in abundance in Breath of the Wild 2's reveal trailer. Yes, Zora's Domain is built from the spirits of the dead from Upland Zorana, at least if we are supposed to believe Lado here.
Another problem for Ganondorf is the strength and military skill of the Zora, as the giant king Dorafan stopped the only guardian that dared threaten his kingdom.
Around 100 years after King Dorafan ascended to the throne, a stray guardian crossed Upland Zorana into our domain. The guardian seemed unstoppable. Our best soldiers' spears barely left a scratch on its metal hull. It was then that our King Dorafan, without a thought for his own safety, came out to face the Guardian himself. With supernatural strength, he lifted the Guardian and hurled it into a ravine. The impact of the fall left the Guardian in pieces, and it was never to trouble another Zora ever again. The citizens celebrated the king's valor. From then on, their trust and respect for him grew beyond compare. You can still see the scar he earned that day on his forehead, a token of his triumph.
That's correct. King Dorafan has been the king of the Zora for over 2 centuries. Despite being a close ally to the Hyrulean royal family, they built the East Reservoir Lake together and were allies during the Calamity 100 years ago. King Dorafan's act must have commenced some respect from the imprisoned Ganondorf. Still, with Waterblight Ganon, he managed to inflict great pain to the Zora royal family as he murdered the king's daughter Mipha inside Divine Beast Ruta. The malfunctioning of Divine Beast Ruta also appears to bring Link and Zelda back to Zoras Domain to offer closure to the king. If it's here we learn about Ganondorf or later from Impa, remains unknown, but it can't be ignored that King Dorafan himself ordered a carving of 10 stone monuments found in the province, which tell of the extensive history of the race and the royal family. Based on King Zora's great wisdom and knowledge of the history of his tribe and Hyrule, he could play a key role, much more so than sitting in his water pool and waiting for Link and his strong son Prince Sidon to sort out the troubles with divine beast Ruta. In fact, it wouldn't come as a surprise if Breath of the Wild 2 will start from Zoras Domain, with a great victory ceremony equal to the one offered to Link after taming divine beast Ruta and freeing the spirit of Princess Mipha, only this time for Princess Zelda as well. Good for her that Link managed to mend relations between the Hylians and the Zora prior to her liberation. It probably also helped that Link was a good friend since childhood and later love interest of Princess Ruta.
From Dorafan, we will most likely receive another confirmation that the spirits of the Sea's champions have departed, as the divine beasts, including divine beast Vast Ruta, no longer had any purpose now that Calamity Ganon had been destroyed by Link and Zelda. However, this might be the moment when Dorafan tells about Ganondorf. Thus, by the time we reach Empire in Kakariko, we might already be set on a quest that will lead us to Ganondorf and the scenes from the E3 2019 reveal trailer. A quest that might also bring a number of crushing casualties to the likes of King Dorafan and Zora's Domain. Anyhow, for now let's stay within Lanayru and more precisely Zora's Domain, as there must be more to this part of the province which escaped destruction. Yes, plenty. So much that we're not actually able to address it all in one video, so let's focus on one area, and that is East Reservoir Lake. Since one of the big questions regarding Breath of the Wild 2 is if we will see real-life dungeons elsewhere than deep underground, and Zora's Domain is the perfect location to discuss this matter. Since if the game begins here, could also the first dungeon be located somewhere in this province?
You see, most console Zelda games since Link to the Past have 3 introduction dungeons, the main exceptions being Majora's Mask and Breath of the Wild, which both had 4 main dungeons. That is if you count the Divine Beast as proper dungeons. But what if the order from Ocarina to Majora is reversed from Breath of the Wild 1 to 2? It is quite possible, and that we similarly to A Link Between Worlds will not leave surface Hyrule for underground Hyrule until we clear a path down to Ganondorf. Seriously, it will not be as easy as walking up to Ganondorf and here we go. Now, it is possible that the path down goes through 3 dungeons in the Lomé Labyrinths. They are very suspicious after all as Zonai strongholds from the distant past, but if those structures are not dungeons, it is more likely that we could see some traditional temples based in Lanayru, Eldin, and most importantly Faron, where we find the 3 dragons, Naydra, Dinral, and Farish. This might also be the preferred order, which would differ from the typical Zelda structure where we begin in the forest, then visit a volcano or mountain, and first after that a water-themed temple. In this system, the water-based dungeon is the last before the turning point, but a more story-driven Breath of the Wild 2 might mix things up and make the water-based temple the first we visit and the Zonai jungle-based dungeon the last before we enter underground and the turning point of the game.
This requires additional exploration. Let's do this Sunday, or if you're watching after that video is up, then right after this video. That leaves us with 2 things left to address: the dungeon location in Lanayru and the gameplay within it, and possibly the rest of the game. Sorry for dragging, but you are getting 2 Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 videos back to back this week in return. So, fair deal I guess. The 2 potential locations for a dungeon in Lanayru in our eyes are Mount Lanayru and the East Reservoir Lake. Both very interesting, but if we have to choose, it has to be a temple at the bottom of East Reservoir Lake. The place is deserted now that Ruta is stuck on the mountain, and the perfect location for a massive temple somewhere in the depth of the lake, or even floating within it. Which brings us to our final point, underwater swimming. We can't stress this enough. Entering Zora's Domain, obtaining the complete Zora tunic and not being able to swim underwater was, to say it lightly, a disappointment.
For those of you who have watched our videos prior to the E3 reveal, you know how much we hated that Breath of the Wild, unlike games like The Witcher 3, restricted us from playing underwater. This, not rain, nor the lack of proper dungeons, was my biggest frustration with this game. Every time I wanted to explore the many rivers, lakes, and seas of Hyrule, I couldn't, and this is one thing that Breath of the Wild 2 needs to change. How can we have one of the most interactive video game worlds, but at the same time not be able to explore more than the surface of all this water? Lack of time and resources and priority on the game and physics engine? Possibly, but now with the sequel, it's time to fix these shortcomings of Hyrule. And in Lanayru, nothing else is more crucial than letting us swim underwater, have underwater enemies like in past Zelda games, and most importantly, underwater objectives. We don't know if the Sheikah runes will return in Breath of the Wild 2, and with it Magnesis, which allowed us to pull out submerged objects. What the Zelda team could potentially include is another layer, or if you prefer dimension, to Breath of the Wild 2. Surface, underwater, and finally underground. This alone will make the sequel greatly stand out from the original, as it will address one of the biggest restrictions found in the first game. At least that's all for this video, so make sure to leave a like, and if you're new, subscribe and press that shiny notification bell for all notifications to not miss the next Lanayru video on Sunday, and more videos to come on Zelda, Pokemon and Nintendo Switch. As always, a big thanks to all our patrons on patreon.com/commonrealm, and we will see you in the next one, or right away if the Sunday video is already up when you're watching. It's on the right.